My name is Lana Parker, and for most of my life, people mistook my silence for weakness. I was 34 years old, a contracts attorney with a corner office overlooking downtown Chicago, and somehow my family still spoke about me like I was the spare child nobody had to worry about. My mother called me self-sufficient, so often it stopped sounding like a compliment years ago. Self-sufficient meant I bought my own school clothes at 16. It meant my younger sister, Emily, got a car for graduation while I got a card with $50 and the words, "We know you'll figure things out." It meant every holiday I slept in the guest room of the house I grew up in because Emily's old bedroom had been converted into a yoga studio for when she visited with the kids someday. Emily didn't even have kids. But she was the sun in my mother's universe. And I was furniture. Useful. Quiet. Expected to stay where I was placed. The strange thing is, I believed them for a long time. I became easy to disappoint because disappointment was familiar, predictable, safe. I learned early that if I never asked for anything, nobody could enjoy denying me. So I built a life no one could criticize. I graduated near the top of my class. Never asked my parents for money. Never caused scenes. Never cried in public. I specialized in contract law because I liked documents more than people. Contracts at least admitted what they were trying to do. People lied. Paper usually didn't. The last straw should have been something huge. Some screaming fight. Some public humiliation. Instead, it was a birthday party. 3 years ago, my mother threw Emily a surprise 30th birthday dinner at this expensive lakefront restaurant with hanging lanterns and violinists moving between the tables. 40 people attended. I found out because Emily posted photos online. In one picture, my mother was kissing her cheek while they laughed into champagne glasses. The caption read, "Perfect night with everyone I love." Everyone. I stared at that word for a long time. Then I checked my phone. No missed calls. No invitation. Nothing. I actually thought maybe there'd been some mistake, so I called my mother the next morning. She answered on the third ring, distracted. "Oh, hi, honey." Honey. That word usually meant she was already preparing a defense. "Mom," I said carefully, "was Emily's birthday dinner last night?" A pause. Then a sigh. "Oh God. Wasn't Lana invited?" "Not you weren't invited." "Wasn't Lana invited?" Passive voice. Coward grammar. "No." Another pause. "Well, it was sort of thrown together. 40 people. Violinists. Customized menus with Emily's initials printed in gold. Thrown together." I remember gripping the edge of my kitchen counter so hard my fingertips turned white. But I still said softly, "I understand." Because that's what I always said. I understand. My mother exhaled with relief the way people do when they narrowly avoid consequences. "You know how chaotic things get." "Yes. And you're so independent." There it was. The family slogan. Independent. Self-sufficient. Low maintenance. All these beautiful little phrases people use when they're grateful you require nothing from them. 3 days later, I mailed Emily a gift anyway. A silk scarf from Florence she'd once admired online. And a handwritten card. "Happy birthday. Hope you felt celebrated. Love you always. Lana." I even paid extra for rush delivery. That's the embarrassing part. Not that they forgot me. That I still tried. 3 weeks later, my grandmother called me at 6:12 in the morning. Grandma Ruth never called before 8 unless someone was dead. My stomach dropped before I even answered. Her voice came through shaky and thin. "Lana, your mother hid something from you." 7 words. That was all it took. 11 years of silence cracked straight down the middle. I drove 2 hours to her house through freezing rain, windshield wipers thudding like a heartbeat. My grandmother lived in a small cedar-sided home that always smelled faintly of cinnamon and old books. When I walked in, she was sitting at the kitchen table beside a small cedar box. I noticed the box immediately because my grandfather used to keep important documents in it. Insurance papers. Military records. Their original mortgage. My grandmother's hands trembled as she touched the lid. "She wasn't supposed to keep this," she whispered. "Keep what?" Instead of answering, she opened the box. Inside sat a folder. Cream-colored. My name written across the tab in my grandfather's handwriting. I felt cold all over. "He changed his will before he died," Grandma said. I blinked at her. What? He added a codicil. Now, most people don't know what a codicil is. I did. A legal amendment to a will. Small piece of paper. Huge consequences. And suddenly my attorney brain woke up completely. Who filed it? I asked. Grandma Ruth looked at me with tears in her eyes. Nobody. The kitchen seemed to tilt sideways. What do you mean nobody? She took it. My mother. She said it would upset the family. My pulse started pounding in my ears. Grandfather died 11 years earlier. 11 years. You're telling me my mother concealed a legal amendment to Grandpa's will for over a decade? Grandma nodded once. Then she pushed the folder toward me. I opened it carefully. Inside was the codicil. Signed. Witnessed. Notarized. Valid. And devastating. My grandfather had amended his estate to leave me his lakeside property in Wisconsin. Not Emily. Me. There was also a handwritten letter attached. Lana, you are the only one in this family who never asked me for anything. So I will give you the one thing I know nobody else deserves. I trust you to do what is fair. Love always. Grandpa. My throat closed. The Wisconsin property was worth nearly $2 million now. My mother and Emily had been using it for years. Family vacations. Christmases. Instagram photos by the dock. I sat there staring at the signature while rain ticked softly against the kitchen windows. Then I asked the question that changed everything. Who knew? Grandma Ruth swallowed hard. Your mother. Emily. Another silence. Too long. Yes. That hurt more than my mother. Emily knew. She knew the cabin legally belonged to me. And every summer she posted photos there anyway with captions like, Family Legacy. I expected myself to explode. To scream. To cry. Instead, something colder happened. Something terrifyingly calm. I closed the folder. And I started planning. See, anger is loud when you're powerless. But when you finally have proof, anger becomes quiet. Precise. Over the next 6 weeks, I gathered everything. Property tax records. Email chains. Vacation rental income they never disclosed. Because yes, they'd secretly been renting the lake house online during peak seasons. That meant fraud. Tax violations. Civil liability. Every lie created another paper trail. And paper trails are where people like me become dangerous. I hired a forensic accountant. I contacted probate court. I filed motions. Quietly. No warnings. No dramatic threats. At Sunday dinners, my mother still smiled at me across roast chicken and candles like nothing was wrong. Emily still sent me links to baby clothes, even though she wasn't pregnant. Nobody knew the avalanche was already moving toward them. Then came the dining room confrontation. God. I still remember the smell of rosemary potatoes and red wine. My mother loved hosting dramatic family dinners because she mistook performance for love. The chandelier glowed gold above us. Rain tapped against the windows again. Funny how the important moments always happen during storms. Emily was talking about renovating the lake house kitchen when I finally reached into my bag and placed the cedar box on the dining table. Silence. Immediate. Absolute. My mother went pale so fast it was almost impressive. Emily stopped mid-sentence. I opened the box carefully, then slid copies of the codicil across the table. Nobody touched them. My father looked confused. My mother looked hunted. And I finally spoke. Calmly. I know. Just those 2 words. My mother's lips parted. Lana. No, I said softly. You've had 11 years. It's my turn now. Emily grabbed the papers first. I watched her eyes move faster and faster down the page. Then came the whisper. Oh my God. Not guilt. Fear. My mother tried recovering first. Honey, we were trying to protect the family. From what? I asked. The consequences of stealing from me? My father looked between us. Stealing. He genuinely didn't know. That shocked even me. Turns out my mother had hidden it from him too. The room detonated after that. Questions. Denials. Excuses. But I stayed perfectly still. Because I had already won before I walked in. Then I dropped the second folder onto the table. Tax records. Rental income. Bank transfers. My mother physically sat down harder in her chair. Emily looked like she might faint. You rented property you didn't legally own, I said quietly. For 11 years. My father stared at my mother like he was seeing a stranger. How much? He asked. Nobody answered. So I did. Approximately $430,000. The sound my father made afterward didn't even sound human. My mother burst into tears immediately. Real tears too. But not for me. For herself. For the first time in my life, I didn't comfort her. Emily suddenly snapped. You're really doing this over a cabin? A cabin. $2 million. My grandfather's final gift. 11 years of lies. A cabin. I looked directly at her, and something inside me finally hardened forever. No, I said. I'm doing this because both of you spent my entire life betting I would never fight back. Dead silence. Then I told them the truth. I already filed. My mother froze. What? The probate petition. The fraud complaint. Everything. You sued us, Emily whispered. I looked at her for a long moment, then answered honestly. No. I slid one final document across the table. Eviction notices. For both of them. Because 3 days earlier, the court had officially recognized the codicil. The lake house was legally mine again. Effective immediately. My mother started sobbing so hard mascara ran down her cheeks. Emily stood up screaming. My father just kept staring at the papers like they might rearrange themselves into a different reality. And me? I felt nothing. Not rage. Not triumph. Just silence. The kind that comes after surviving a storm so long you forget what quiet sounds like. I stood to leave. Then my mother said the one thing she should never have said. We're family. I turned around slowly. The cedar box still sat open beneath the chandelier. And for the first time in my life, I stopped apologizing for seeing things clearly. No, I said. Family would have told me the truth. Then I picked up the cedar box and walked out into the rain. But here's the part nobody expects. 3 months later, my father left my mother. Apparently discovering your wife hid a legal document for over a decade changes how you see every conversation before it. Emily lost her real estate license after the investigation into the rental income. And my mother? She called me 17 times the week before Christmas. I never answered. Instead, I drove alone to the lake house. My lake house. Snow covered the dock. The air smelled like cedar and ice and pine. Inside, I lit a fire and sat beside it with the old cedar box in my lap. That's when I found the second letter, hidden beneath the false bottom. My grandfather's handwriting again. If you are reading this, then you've finally learned the truth about your mother. I'm sorry I left you in a family that mistakes kindness for permission. Do not give them another piece of yourself to break. And Lana? Being quiet is not the same thing as being weak. I cried then. Really cried. For the little girl who kept mailing gifts to people who forgot her birthday. For the woman who spent years earning love from people already committed to withholding it. And then I did one final thing. I burned every apology letter I'd ever written to my family in the fireplace. One by one. The flames curled the paper black while snow fell silently outside the windows. And for the first time in my entire life, I understood exactly how revenge is supposed to feel. Warmed, I locked the cedar box one last time and placed it on the mantel above the fireplace. Outside, snow buried the tire tracks leading to the house. Inside, the silence finally felt earned. My phone buzzed again. Mom. I watched it ring until the screen went dark. Then I opened the lake house ledger, crossed out the Parker family reservation scheduled for Christmas morning, and wrote a single line beneath it. Property under new management. The fire cracked softly, and somewhere deep inside me, the daughter they raised to accept less finally disappeared forever.